Hi, I'm Josh, and I'm so grateful you're here with me as I talk about my gaming for the month of December. I acquired a couple of new items, I did some more video gaming, and I got 6 different board games played in the month of December. So in terms of the things I acquired, these were just things I kind of happened to pick up as I was doing Christmas shopping for other people. So while I was out at the game store, I stumbled across an expansion for SkyTeam, one of my new favorites, called SkyTeam Turbulence. And it was just like a tiny little $12 expansion in a little cardboard sleeve type of thing. So picked up that expansion, which adds a whole bunch of new stuff to a game that already has a ton of content to explore in it, but it was cheap enough to go ahead and pick that up. I was also picking up a handful of kind of $20 or less games for a Christmas gift exchange, and I stumbled across this little travel edition of For Sale. This, again, I think it was under $15, and I remember playing this game years and years ago and thinking it was a fun little card game. And when I saw that this travel edition was so small and cheap, I decided to go ahead and pick it up. I also found an expansion for it called For Sale Advisors, and I wasn't really sure if it was compatible with this little travel edition, so eventually I figured out that the cards in the travel edition are the same size as the cards in the regular game, so they are totally compatible with the expansion stuff. The only real difference that I could find is that the money, the little cardboard coins, are just very thin cardboard, whereas in the regular full edition I think they are kind of better quality. So everything about the travel edition just looks decent to me. And then if I'm talking about acquisitions, I will also mention that I picked myself up a big video game called Baldur's Gate 3, and the reason I decided to splurge on a big newer title is because I realized I've been buying video games all wrong. Over the past 10 years of being on Steam, I've been picking up games that drop down to 80-90% off, discounted down to $3, $5, $10, whatever, with the view that someday I'll have a computer good enough to actually play the games. And now I do have a decent laptop and can get these games played. But now that I'm looking at putting a lot of hours into a game, 100 hours, 150, 200 hours to get through a big title like this, I'm realizing if I'm going to put that kind of time into a game, I want to get the best of the best, not the kind of older versions that are deeply discounted. So I went ahead and I used my Patreon support for the month of December and picked myself up this big video game to start exploring. I think that I would like to do a couple of videos about video games, my history with video gaming, and more thoughts around them. I keep saying these things I want to make videos about, but finding the actual time to do it and the energy and all that stuff is difficult, but it's on the back burner, something I would like to do. Before I leave the topic of video games, though, I will mention that I actually finished Subnautica over the course of 3 months and 120 hours of gameplay. I got through the entire game, and the major thing that pushed me to get through it so quickly was every time my youngest son Wyatt was with me, he was like, "Dad, let's play Subnautica," which means let's have you play Subnautica while I sit and watch you and explore the game together. So it was just a lot of quality time spent with my younger son. He did take over the controls here and there in the game, but largely it was me playing through the game while he hung out with me. And so we got through the game in that manner, and I have to tell you, my initial rating of 7 to 7.5 out of 10 just kept getting higher and higher in my mind as I got through the game more and more, until finally I finished the game, saw the ending. I was like, this is top notch. This is 9 out of 10. I don't have a lot to compare it to in terms of modern video gaming because I have almost no experience with modern video games. But the ending was so well done. The game was so well designed. My younger son Wyatt, I'll say it's kind of a bittersweet ending in a way. I found it very satisfying and a very good ending. Wyatt found it to be a little bit too sad for his tender heart, which I love that he is like that. He's not as jaded as his old dad, I guess. But it is definitely a 9 out of 10 game for me. And it's not going to be the last time I talk about the Subnautica franchise, I'll say that. Okay, so getting into the 6 board games I played in order of lowest rated to highest rated game. The first one I will talk about is For Sale. This is not entirely new to me, however, it's been 15 years since I played it. I think I played it once in 2009 based on the rating I have on BoardGameGeek. I rated it a 7 out of 10 in 2009. I got it to the table with my sons, Evan and Wyatt. It's a very simple game to learn how to play and to dive into. It does take that kind of one learning game, I think, to figure out how to bid on different things, what the values of things are, because it is based around an auction mechanism. And with auction games, you tend to not have a very good idea what the value of things are in the first play. But we enjoyed it, although there was quite a large spread in the final victory point scores between the three of us. My younger son, Wyatt, was way behind. He ended up with quite a low score and ultimately decided that it was an okay game, though he's very much my thematically oriented kid. He's the one that wants the theme to be jumping out, wants it to be an interesting theme, not necessarily buying and selling real estate. But, you know, he had fun with it. My older son, Evan, had kind of the middle score, and he enjoyed it more than Wyatt, but he's more of my tactical thinker. He's very much the mathematically brained son of my two sons, and enjoyed this game more. And then I was way ahead in the final scores. And ultimately, I kind of agreed with my rating 15 years ago of 7 out of 10. I decided to stick with that. Wyatt, like I said, he gave it a lower rating of 5 out of 10, which for him is kind of a middle of the road. Yeah, it's fun, but I can kind of take it or leave it. And then Evan gave it a 7.5 out of 10, the highest rating of the three of us. It's a game that I think would be ideal with exactly 4 players. It works okay with 3. And it would probably work pretty well with 5 as well. 5 would probably be the second best player count for it. But I see this as being a very good 4-player game. One that's really easy to whip out in the small group setting, teach real quickly, play real quickly, and maybe play it through a couple of times. Getting into my 2-player gaming now, we have Naga Raja, which is a 2-player design about exploring in a temple based on card play and rolling these fate sticks, which is kind of a replacement of rolling dice. Instead, you're rolling these interesting fate sticks. I played this with Paul, and I was way ahead in the game against Paul, and thought I was cruising to victory until Paul had to really adjust his strategy and make some really clever moves to manipulate the tiles in my temple, and he ended up winning by a long shot. He tanked my score and just soared way ahead and ended up with a victory through some really clever gameplay. And I was impressed both with the game, that it was kind of a strategy we hadn't explored much in the past, and of course with Paul being smart enough to figure it all out and beat me. When I first got this game some years back and played it, I was thinking of actually selling it because I thought it was a good game, but maybe not great enough to remain in the collection. But the more I've played it over the years, the more I've been impressed with it and enjoyed it a little bit more each time. So I've bumped up my rating a little bit. Previously it was 7 out of 10. Now I have it at 7.5 out of 10. Paul rates it a 7 out of 10. Moving on quickly to Magic the Gathering, I played this time with Evan. I've always said that I enjoy deck construction, and typically the type of decks I'm constructing are 60-card decks with a commander that are used for brawl format play, typically 2-player brawl format with 60 cards. But for the first time I decided I would put together a 100-card commander deck, and Evan over the past couple of Christmases has acquired a couple of commander decks, which he hasn't had a chance to try yet. So we're hoping we might try it with the two of us and Evan's younger brother Wyatt, but Wyatt wasn't super interested, so Evan and I just thought, well, let's just pull out our 100-card commander decks and play them against each other and see how it goes. His deck that was based around creating a party of adventurers with an assortment of wizards, clerics, rogues, and warriors absolutely crushed the commander deck that I built, but it was fun for the two of us to pull out our new decks and give them a try anyways. Next is a game that I enjoy a ton but haven't gotten out in a long time, and that's Kings of Air in Steam. The main reason I haven't played it recently is because I've had the plastic airships from the game by my painting desk in various stages of beginning to paint them, and so I was waiting to get that finished up before I got the game to the table again. But I finally got impatient with myself and realized if I wait for me to finish painting all these airships, it's going to be potentially a couple more years before I get the game out. So finally, I just pulled it out to play with Paul with my partially painted airships, and I'm really glad I did. We realized again just how quick this game plays with only 2 players, and it scales really well for different player counts because you kind of just shrink the board down, and so it's still competitive with 2 players, and it's very much a pick up and deliver game of picking up goods with your airship, dropping them on your train lines and shipping them via your train lines to the cities that are in demand for them. There's a clever little market mechanism for how you get paid out for those shipments, and it's a super fun game that I've mentioned before. I was super disappointed that the expansion failed to fund on Kickstarter. I really hope that'll see the light of day at some point down the road. But it is a tight scoring game, and I ended up getting behind fairly early in the game with a couple of errors that really cost me, and once I got behind I couldn't catch up. What's interesting is that the final scores are based on a number of different things in the game. So when Paul and I played it, our final scores were tied on the airship level we had achieved. We were tied on the train levels we had achieved. We were tied on the number of train depots we'd built on the board. But the one thing that Paul was way ahead on me, the only thing that he was ahead on was the money earned by delivering the goods, which ultimately is what the game is kind of all about. So he definitely did much better at that than I did. But I was really happy to get this game out. I rated 8.5 out of 10. In the past, Paul has rated the game 6.5 out of 10, but he boosted it up to a 7 out of 10. He commented on just what a quick to play game it is with 2 players who are experienced with the game and know what it's about and how to do what you need to do in the game. It plays quite quickly. Next, Paul and I have continued to enjoy Sky Team, this 2-player game of controlling an aircraft and getting it to come in to land safely at various airports. This time we played the hardest green level that we could find, which is still the easiest of the different color-coded levels. There are these 4 levels of difficulty, and we won easily on this green level, so we're certainly ready to move on to the next ones. Like I said, now that I have the expansions, I have even way more content, even including more green levels that we could try if we wanted to. But it's just a really fun dice-based cooperative game. I rated 8.5 out of 10. Actually, I did rate it 8.5 out of 10, but I boosted it up to 9 out of 10. And in fact, Paul did the same. He had also rated it 8.5 out of 10 and boosted that to a 9. In the past, when I played with Evan, he had rated it 8.5 out of 10, and my nephew Charlie, when I played with him, gave it an 8 out of 10. So all around, this has been a hit. A pretty simple 2-player game that is kind of dice dependent, but is also based on being able to cooperate well with the person you're playing with. And then my number 1 hit of the month was this game Agent Avenue that I had recently picked up. Again, a very simple 2-player card game that you can knock off a game in 5 minutes, at the most 10 minutes if it drags on a bit. But I played 2 quick games with Evan on Christmas Eve, and he beat me both times, so proud daddy moments there. It's just, I mean, for just a 2-player game that you can sit down, knock off a bunch of plays in 20 minutes, you really can't beat it. I rated 9 out of 10. Paul had given it 8.5 out of 10. Evan, 9.25 out of 10, puzzlingly enough. Wyatt had given it an 8.5 out of 10. So, yeah, just a game that I'm glad I spent the time and effort to get it shipped over from Europe. And I hope that it does see wider distribution in North America, because more people definitely need to be playing this game together. Thank you to my Patreon supporters who allow me to pick up games like this and Baldur's Gate 3 and just give me motivation to keep putting the hours into the video editing. And like I said, I'd love to get a little bit into the video game side of things now that I'm kind of exploring that world a little bit more. Regardless, I'm just grateful for the time you spend with me here, and I'll see you again soon with my wrap-up of the year 2024 in board gaming. Hopefully I'll be able to get to that in the not too distant future. Cheers. Hi, I'm Josh, and I'm grateful you're here with me as I talk about games that I did, and basically stuff, game that I'm glad I took. Regardless, I'm just grateful for the time you spend with me here.